right. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday, March 16th. My name is BJ Morgan. I'm with the Museum of Making Music in Carlsbad, California. Today, we welcome you to an episode of Show Notes, which is part of our San Diego Sound Project. The San Diego Sound Project is a program of the Museum of Making Music. It's a series where we highlight emerging artists within the San Diego region. We've been supported by an advisory committee that includes Grammy Award-winning producer, UCSD faculty member Kamal Kenyatta, Cal State University San Marcos professor and Center Artes, executive director Dr. Merrill Goldberg, Grossmont College Music Department Chair Derek Cannon, Emmy Award-winning composer and Miracosta College faculty member Christy Kubatis, and Connections Chamber Member Series co-founder Bridget Dolkus. For each of these concert series events, we host a show notes, which gives us an online behind-the-scenes look at the artist and their uprising in their musical career, where they're coming from, and what we can expect with our concert series. For today, we're welcoming Brenda Greggio, a jazz pianist. She's a 17-year-old young jazz pianist and composer. She's currently a senior at high school at the San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts, and is also part of the Young Lions Conservatory in San Diego. She's was a Young Artist Jazz Composition winner in 2021 and was also selected to be the pianist of the Montgomery Jazz Festival's Next Generation Women in Jazz Combo performance in 2020 and 2021. So we're so excited to be welcoming her today. And we also have guest interviewer Leonard Patton, remarkable jazz vocalist, very well renowned, and his connection to the Museum of Making Music. I remember this back in 2017. He set the Guinness World Record for the most concerts performed in a 24-hour period. I think there was 70 different venues, and the Museum of Making Music had the honor and the privilege of being the very first venue that he came to in this massive tour of venues throughout San Diego for that Guinness World Record. So amazing. Let's all welcome everyone here today. I've lost Leonard's camera. Hold on, Leonard. Let me get your camera back in here because everybody wants to see your smiling face. It'll take me less than a second. This is the technical behind the scenes fun stuff. There he is. All right,
There
welcome everyone. How are we doing today?
Great.
So glad to have you here on Show Notes today. I'm going to turn the conversation over to the both of you. Let's have some fun.
Thank you.
Right on. What's up, Brenda?
Hi, Leonard.
Hi. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's school?
You know, I wish that it was over.
You wish that it was over. Well,
yeah.
We are in the middle of March.
That's very true.
You got 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So
and then I can go to college. You
just got to hang in there because I know you're excited about that next phase, which we can talk about in a little bit. But so I want to start by, so you being a senior in high school, and I want to talk a little bit about how you got into jazz. I know you. We've played together, and I know some of it. But nowadays it's different than many years ago, where you don't have you don't have a lot of people your age or younger getting into jazz until maybe they get after high school and they discover it. I know a lot of musicians who, it's like I grew up playing rock and whatever else, and then they discovered jazz, sometime in college. So tell me about how music in general started for you. Tell me about how jazz started for you and where your personal influences come from, whether it's family or teachers or whatever.
So music. When I was 3 months old, 6 months old, my mom and I did Mommy and Me music classes with like maracas and tambourines. So that's where it all started. And then I was put in group piano lessons when I was 4 years old at Green Music Education Center. And then I kept playing piano eventually I went into private classical lessons until I was, I think, 9 years old. My mom put me in a class, a beginner's jazz class with JJ Lim.
JJ Lim.
And that's where I got into jazz. And also
Oh,
because my mom always listened to jazz. So it's more, I think the main reason is because of my mom.
main reason because of your mom playing it all the time.
Hmm.
So it was already something you were familiar with. So when you started taking lessons with JJ at 9 years old, it was kind of already something that you were,
Yeah,
kind of primed and ready for.
exactly.
Um, it's very cool. It's also cool. I mean, we're gonna talk about Young Lions too, because I think you are. There's a lot of being in the right place, being in the right environment. I think the environment, of course, for you starts in the home. And I couldn't stress enough, how much, we as parents can like create that environment for our kids, but not all of them have that environment. So it's amazing how some kids choose that musical path that they do and not even having that musical environment at home. But um, so would you say between the ages of 9 and I think I first met you, were you like 12
Wait, was it
maybe?
at Francis Parker?
Yeah,
I think I was 11 or 10.
11. Okay. So, talking about Francis Parker, for those who don't know, I for the past how many years? I don't know. It's been 10 years. I don't even know. I teach one of the faculty at the summer jazz camp at Francis Parker, doing the vocal and Brenda, you've done it more than 1 year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe 2 or 3.
2 or 3 years. So I think that's where I first met you. You were 11. So would you say like maybe your pivotal years as far as really propelling you into jazz was between the ages of 9 and 12? Those like 3 years maybe were like, yeah, this is where I'm going.
I think, um, okay, so I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Go back, go back.
When I started doing music, I wasn't just doing music, I was doing dance also.
Okay.
So from the ages of 4 to 11 and 12, I was doing multiple piano classes and multiple dance lessons, which was way too much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I decided that I was going to pick one and stick with it. So I ended up picking music, and I quit.
What was your decision in that, by the way? I'm sure when you were dancing you loved it. So I like
Yeah,
what was your decision in picking music over dance?
I think it was, I don't know. I guess I enjoyed playing piano more
Yeah.
than dancing. Yeah, so halfway through middle school, I quit dance. So I think the pivotal moment in music, I probably 13, 14,
Oh, okay.
was when I
Yeah.
decided I really wanted to. And there
That's
have been like specific moments at like different concerts and performances that I've had where I'm playing and I've realized I'm like, okay, I genuinely enjoy this a lot.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's like we have to test ourselves to see if this is really what we want to do. You have to
Yeah.
have that litmus test. Um, yeah, I know, I mean for me, I do music, I also do acting and there's a lot of us who do if you are a creative person, if you are an artist, a lot of times you have multiple things that you like to do. Um, when did the Young Lions start?
Um,
You were in at the very beginning, right?
yeah. I'm not sure about the year, but I think I was 13
Okay.
or 14.
So that was right. That Young Lions came right at that pivotal place where you
Yeah.
decided this is what you want to do, and then all of a sudden the Young Lions is born.
Mhm. Well, that pivotal moment, there's a specific time that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
At Young Lions, Gilbert Castellanos, the
Yes.
director, he gave me an opportunity to open for the Oscar Peterson and Ray Brown tribute at the San Diego Symphony. I don't, yeah, the symphony.
Yeah. The
and
symphony. Only
yeah,
the symphony. Yeah.
yeah. And there was John Clayton and Jeff Hamilton playing with
Yep.
Tamir Hendelman. I think that's his
Oh,
last
yeah.
name.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I played a transcription, basically. I transcribed the arrangement of Tintindeo that Oscar Peterson does.
Mm-hmm.
And I played it. And I was 13. And there were at maybe like 2,000 people watching. And I was so nervous. But
Were your hands
afterwards,
doing like this? Like,
yes,
no.
my foot was shaking on the pedal. And I remember like walking on stage because I was wearing these heels that didn't really fit me. And they were like slipping off my feet as I was walking. But it was
So
afterwards.
in other words, you were a hot mess.
Oh yeah, I was so scared. But after it happened, I felt great. And I think that moment was truly when I was like this is it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So,
Can I
tell me about.
Can I
yeah.
butt in, Leonard? I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
getting an opportunity to work with like artists like John Clayton and Hamilton and everything. I mean, what was your impression? Like, what did you have expectations going into that moment where you're like, I don't know if these artists are going to be, if we're going to jive together, if we're going to have this rapport. What was that? What was that experience like going in before you got there, and then after the event? What was did it change any perceptions for you communicating and working with these I mean, giants of jazz at the time?
Maybe I phrased that incorrectly. I didn't play with them.
Oh, okay. All right, my bad. I was like,
no,
wow,
it's
John
good.
Clayton?
I played with John Murray, who is the bassist that I'll be playing with on Saturday,
Okay.
and his sister Carmen Murray.
Okay.
But John Clayton and Jeff Hamilton were watching us play
Oh,
from the
right.
side.
Excellent.
So that was scary.
Were you able to engage with them and talk to them and get to know them, and did you have expectations going in, and did they change at all after you guys performed?
Not really. I mean, honestly, I don't remember. I think I was so nervous that I just forgot.
That's awesome, though. That's wild. Wow, what a crazy experience. I'm sorry to butt in there. Thank you for indulging me for that moment. I was so curious to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Continue on. I'll let you guys continue.
Yeah, that I can imagine how that experience would be a blur. Especially being young and you're just, it's kind of crazy. So this all kind of, we're leading into the Young Lions, and so tell me about your experience with the Young Lions. Tell me about like your just working with Gilbert, working with the ensembles. Just kind of give me a sense from when you started and up through now.
Okay. Well, Young Lions, I think, is one of the best things that's happened to me, especially because I get that opportunity to play with other kids who want to do what I want to do. And we both love music and jazz, of course. And being able to work with Gilbert is great. He's a great teacher, and he's really inspirational because you can tell how much he loves teaching and how much he loves the music and respects it. And something that wasn't mentioned, I'm also at the Colburn School of Music in LA.
Yes, you drive up there every week, right? Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I got that opportunity because the director reached out to me and offered me a scholarship. So that's the only reason that I decided to make that commitment. But I'm still there, and I think it's a similar thing as Young Lions with the combo and everything, except with different people. And it's really cool. being able to meet other kids from LA, perform with them, learn what music is more popular in LA, whereas what music is more popular in San Diego. It's different.
It's different. How is it different, by the way? Just curious.
I don't know. There's like jam session songs in San Diego. Like a few years ago, one that was really popular was Firm Roots.
Yeah.
And in LA, it was I Hear a Rhapsody.
Yeah.
It was like tunes that, like, if I called them in San Diego, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't know that one."
Oh, yeah. I get it. I get it. So then, obviously with Young Lions, you've had a lot of opportunity to perform. I mean, it's like, you know, when you're learning this music, it's important to learn it. You have, obviously you're learning music, and you learn theory, you learn stuff in either a one-on-one session or sometimes a combo or a class situation. But playing is really like, the best learning, because you put all that knowledge that you learn, it's like you're in the moment, you're working it out. So you have a lot of chances to play and work it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, obviously, there's a lot you've done. You've had a chance to, you've gone to New York, you've gone to some other places. Can you talk about some of the opportunities that you've had outside of San Diego to perform and different things?
Yeah. So with the Women in Jazz, the first year that I did it was right before COVID happened.
Yeah.
So in January of 2020, we went to Berkeley in Boston, and it was a Jazz Without Patriarchy event. And so I got to perform at Berkeley in Boston. It was very cool. Because of COVID, we didn't get to go to the Monterey Festival because it was canceled.
Yeah.
But last summer, I was in the group again. And so I got to perform at the Monterey Jazz Festival.
Right.
And that was such a great experience. I got to see Emmanuel Wilkins and a bunch of other artists. Super cool. And I've never been, okay, actually I have been to a festival before, but this one was different. It was more exciting, I think, also because I was older this time, because the first time I went to a festival was my freshman year of high school, where I was still getting into, that was like around my pivotal moment. So I don't think I appreciated it as much as I would have liked to. Whereas at this most recent festival that I went to, it was life-changing.
And then I know there's a couple other things that you've done, right? Like significant things that you've done. Can you talk about any of those others?
Yeah. Do you mean like Young Arts?
Yeah, or any of them, because they're all significant in their own way. So, I mean, what you've been able to do over the past few years is more than most.
Yeah. So I applied to Young Arts in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
I got an award for composition for one of my tunes. And then I also got one just for playing piano for my playing.
Yeah.
Over quarantine, I did a solo piano live stream.
Yep.
With the Athenaeum.
Yep.
Which was a really cool experience because I've never done anything like that before. And that's all I have off the top of my head.
That's all I have. There's probably a couple more. You just can't think of them.
I got one.
Okay. Yeah.
My high school band, we went to Essentially Ellington.
Yes.
In 2019. Yeah.
You were missing something.
That one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we made it to the competition. which was the top 15 bands in the nation.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I got to play on the stage in Lincoln Center. And that was awesome.
The Lincoln Center. And did
That's
you
all
meet
I have
Wynton?
to say.
No,
Not
okay.
directly,
Okay.
but I saw him.
Okay. Well, just even being in the presence of Wynton is
Yeah.
something, it's very cool. And being
Mm-hmm.
on a Lincoln Center, I mean, I've watched a lot of
Yeah.
Lincoln Center have been live streaming their performances for years, way before pandemic. I've watched
Mm-hmm.
some just amazing, great performances. Their production, everything is amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
just the fact that you got to perform there.
Yeah, but I wanted to say that competition was, it didn't feel like a competition. There were all of the bands in the audience during every single concert, but everyone was so supportive of each other. It wasn't like competitive, even though it was.
That's what it's all about.
But it didn't feel like that.
I think that
Mm-hmm.
tells you a lot about the community of music, community of jazz in general. And I think a lot of, jazz band directors are good at helping to create that community. So even when there's a competition, yeah, you want to do your best. You want to win because it brings notoriety to you in the school and whatnot. So of course they want to win, but it's really about, it's about being in awe of your peers. It's really, the older you get, the more you play, the more you're in awe because you meet more musicians. You're like, man, there's so many great people out. It's amazing. So that's great that was the way that experience was. So I want to let people in on a little secret. I just need to tell them this. Brenda is a great singer, and I'm always trying to nudge her to sing more. Of course, her mother is always, it's like, Mom, Mom. But she's a great singer, and I don't even think Brenda, I don't really think you know how good of a singer and how powerful that can be for you and your career. You're of course people who've heard you play piano, I mean, know what you can do on your piano, but there's quite a few people that haven't heard you sing. Are you singing at all on your concert? Yes. Okay.
No,
well,
I'm not.
I
Maybe
feel
next
like we
time.
have a missed opportunity now at the Museum
That's
of
what I'm
Making
saying.
Music. Oh,
Yes.
that's okay. Is there any chance that you would be able to sing? No, I'm not gonna. You probably already decided your program long ago. So we'll have to do a follow up concert where we will be able to feature the vocal stylings of
Hey,
Brenda.
just saying, Kamau also encourages her to sing too. So it's not just Mom, it's not just me. Kamau also encourages her to sing. So there's a lot of people who would be very happy to hear you sing. But, in the right environment, you don't have to break out a song this weekend unless you want to surprise us.
I'll think about it.
Ooh,
I'll think about it.
I like that. Think about it. Here's I'm gonna read this question. Question from Gary Piro. We know Gary Piro. He's cool. How many days a week is the commitment to the Young Lions Academy?
So currently I am committing 2 times a week. That's okay. So on Sundays I have my Young Lions combo, but recently we started doing a big band at Young Lions. So I'm doing that one on Monday nights.
So two times a week. That's not including like if you have a performance like on the Wednesday night at Panama 66 or somewhere else. So that's pretty good. How's it been doing? Panama's very cool. Just having those performances.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a cool thing about Young Lions. So every Wednesday, either a combo gets featured from 7 to 7:50. It used to be longer, but it got changed recently. But it's not just combos. Sometimes an individual from Young Lions will get featured, and they can choose who they want to play with. And I think that's one of those opportunities that Young Lions gives you that really helps you grow as a musician.
Let's talk a little bit about composing. I mean, so you've been writing and just to tell me about like how's that been like just your young process of writing and just tell me a little bit about that for you.
Okay. So I started writing 7th grade or 8th grade. So 12, 13 again. And when I first started writing, something I'd like to say is I could never think of titles. A lot of my songs, I would put a maybe title for a little bit. Like, I can't think of anything, so I called one Not Yet because I couldn't think of a name yet. But I never thought of one, so it's called Not Yet. Yep. But recently, or first I'll say this, a lot of people have told me, like, I take composition lessons with Danny Green. A lot of the time I'm told that I should start writing songs with my melody first. Also, Chaz Cabrera told me this because he now teaches at my high school. He would say that if I start with chords, then I have to find a melody that fits the chords. Whereas if I write the melody first, I can just find chords that work under it, but never to be married to the chords. Always stick with the melody. And I think that's really interesting. So now I'm using that method. We're starting with the melody first, and I can think of titles.
That's cool. I that's a good. I think, and I think for the most part that's true. I think sometimes you can be jamming out on chords, and then a melody pops up. So it's still possible to be inspired with a melody, just by starting with the chords. But I think. But I think in terms of like when you're really just trying to, compose, I mean, you improvise. And so to me, it's like when somebody can improvise, it's like you can come up with melodies, for days. And so it's like, coming up with a good melody is not that big of a thing. When my question for you, do you like, when you are composing, even aside from playing, let's just say you're, at the mall or somewhere and you come up with something in your head, like a melody, do you hear the chords with it in your head? You don't?
No.
That's interesting.
I don't. Sometimes I can hear like rhythms or hits, I guess, but not really.
So if you have a
usually
melody, like even, and I don't mean if you necessarily in your head know what the chords are yet. Obviously, you know chords and you can sit at the piano and figure out. But just like if there's a melody, there's nothing harmonically that stands out in your ear if you're just randomly coming up with a melody.
I think it's more like I don't normally randomly come up with melodies when I'm not sitting at the piano.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's totally that's totally, and you know what, that'll over time that might change. I mean, that might be like, you might just have melodies that just start popping up. I mean, I write too, and I think of melodies all the time. I get distracted sometimes when I'm watching movies because I'm watching a movie and like I'm hearing the soundtrack or hear something going on, and then all of a sudden I'm inspired in my head, and then I got to try to focus on the movie because I'm gonna miss something, but I'm inspired. So yeah, for me, I write a melody. I can actually hear harmonically what it sounds like. And then what I do is I'll go to the piano and try to put down harmonically what's already in my head, but
Yeah.
according to the chords. That's kind of what I do quite a bit.
That's
Hmm.
wild because I mean I'm very jealous of the both of you because I every time I hear like something I think I hear something in my head or I'll be like talking to my kids like let's take out the trashes but I don't have the
That was
tools.
nice.
No, I don't have the problem is I don't have the tools nor the experience to translate that whatever is in my head
Yeah,
down to paper. You know, I
yeah,
mean, I think you guys have a lot more experience with being able to not only process the ideas but then to interpret them and get them out there and then to communicate them with other artists to create works that you can then share out with the audience and with the wider public. So
yeah.
I'm extremely impressed and jealous by that because I'm like I wish I could do that. You guys are such cool skills. What is your process, Brenda? Like when you went from this shift to doing like taking the chords because that's one thing I notice about artists when they have really really cool chord changes when they go to unexpected places like that's not normal, that's completely outside. I love that aspect of
Hmm.
when I hear as an active listener to music I'm like wow I didn't expect that to happen. But when you transition to or transitioning to taking the melody and Chaz actually performed one of these San Diego Sound Project concerts for us too. He was definitely a remarkable educator and performer too. So I'm so glad to see that relationship there. It's like every name you're throwing out is like I know those we all know those people at the museum and it's just this wonderful family of artists and musicians. What has been your process then now in shifting to this melody oriented type of writing?
So recently I started writing a lot more, but starting with the melody is definitely more
Mm.
difficult
Do you? Sorry, go ahead.
because,
I
sorry,
said,
no, what were you going
do
to
you
say?
find more opportunities to come up with more variety based on maybe a like I don't know the process at all, so I have no experience dealing with the process. Is it what makes it difficult and what makes it different than writing for chords?
I think it's more when I'm writing a melody, sometimes I'm really cautious of how it would sound and more like I don't want it to sound too much like a solo. Like as if there's no like repetition and it doesn't sound like a melody,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. I
And
don't know.
what is it about like
But
something that you land on that you're like this is it, this is where I want to go? What informs you of that decision?
I think when I'm composing and I'm playing it on the piano, if I play some sort of melody that I can hear chords underneath it, like what we were saying, Leonard, when I can start hearing the whole song coming together and where it's going to go, that's when I realize that I like
Hmm.
what I'm writing.
Fascinating. That's so cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'll turn it over
Hmm.
to you guys again. Sorry, I keep butting in, don't I?
Yeah, no, it's your show.
No,
It's
no,
your
I'm just
show.
it's all of our party right now. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a party. It's a musical party. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's I don't know. I love writing, and I love everybody has a different process, and yes, the process for everybody I think changes over time, just based on whatever. There is no as we grow, we learn different things. I think that process will change and become even, I would say, even easier. I'm gonna say it. Here we go. The more you sing, I'm just saying
Mm.
because,
Okay.
like, because when maybe intuitively, you're a chords person first, like just intuitively in your head, just because you're just so used to playing the chords and playing the chords underneath the melody. You're used to reharmonizing on the spot of a melody. So that's
Hmm.
an easy thing. So I think the more you sing is actually going to, help you in your in your compositions. I'm just, throwing that out to you.
Okay.
These are predictions for 2022.
That's what I'm
Predictions for
saying.
we have to revisit and see how
Okay.
it turns out next year.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I ask a question related about kind of because I'm coming from the museum side of
Yeah.
of the spectrum here. So Brenda, we talk about the museum, our storyline, like the connections that artists make with their instruments, and you being a pianist and now a new vocalist too. On top of that, what is and we talked about how you started piano at an early age and it was really your family and your mother helped you get into that. What really drew you to the piano as opposed to say like maybe trumpet or tuba? I think we had kind of talked about in our pre-show sound check here, tuba or drums or percussion or anything. What really connected you to the piano, and what continues to keep that instrument the kind of like the main focal point of your career?
Well, the first point is that I started on piano and it wasn't my choice. I never really played any other instruments until in fifth grade band, I was forced to pick an instrument to play. I picked the flute and I played the flute. Well, I played the flute for a few months. It's funny because there's videos. I think my parents always say that they could tell. I don't think anyone noticed, but in my concerts, I was pretending to play because I never practiced because I was playing piano instead. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
So that's the connection.
What continues? Do you find other ways that you have a relationship with the piano other than just like a technical, the music making ability? Does it inform you? I'm trying to think of the words I want to say here. The right question. How has it impacted you beyond music?
That's a great question. Piano in general, I think, is such a versatile instrument that it can be used in everything, in any setting of music. But just listening, I think one of those things, going back to the pivotal moment, listening to Piano Trio is just beautiful. I think someone who's really influenced me is Brad Meldau. I started listening to him a lot recently, and I think he's also connected me further into wanting to play piano and staying with it. I'm not sure if that really answered your question,
I mean,
but
it kind of does, because I mean, as artists, we have a relationship with the instrument directly. We're able to take that instrument and create from it, but taking it from a different perspective too. I don't know how often that we really find ourselves actively listening to, like, I'm a drummer, so I will, like, if you give me any piece of music, the first thing I'm going to focus on is what's going on with the rhythm section. What's that drummer doing? And kudos for this weekend, because I know you've invited Julian Cantelm to play drums with you on the set, and I as a drummer, mad respect to him, because what he does behind a kit is just something. It's personally, as that artist, my own connection to drums, I'm like, I just am in awe and can experience the drums in a new way watching somebody else play it with that capacity. And so what you say makes sense, because being able to appreciate an instrument as an artist, but then also see it and appreciate it as somebody else, as witnessing somebody else who is performing on it too, is it's a different shift in perspective, and it's a different way to appreciate the instrument. Maybe more so than somebody who doesn't have that experience with the instrument or that in-depth knowledge of it. So yeah, that's a very spot on answer to that question. Thank you.
Yeah. How much? So maybe a couple more things. So just looking ahead, obviously you are waiting for you just did some college touring. You're looking at different schools, and you've applied and auditioned to multiple schools. Over the next handful of weeks, you will get all your acceptance. I mean, they're all going to accept you, and then it's really just a matter of what
I
you.
hope
No,
so.
that's no. Just trust me. just trust me. They're all going to accept
Okay.
you, and then obviously it's going to be determined on which one you feel most connected to. Maybe who shows you the money. You know, I don't. I mean, it's a lot of factors. I mean, tell me about any. Tell me about some of the schools that you auditioned for, and what will be your factors in choosing a school ultimately.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, I traveled to New York for my auditions. A lot of these schools had video auditions that were
Mm-hmm.
required first before they decided that they wanted you to audition in person. So I had the opportunity to audition at the Peabody
Mm-hmm.
Conservatory in Baltimore. And then the rest are all in New York. So I applied to Juilliard, Manhattan School of Music, the New School, and NYU. I think the general experience of auditioning, some schools were more like an audition setting, whereas others were more just playing. It was fun. It was all really fun. And just being in New York is really exciting.
Yeah, so
So, yeah.
any like what's at the top of your list right now? Just if you have one.
I think considering location and faculty and everything, I think
Okay.
Manhattan School of Music is
Okay.
at the top of my list.
Cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously, any of those schools are great. Um, but yeah, just something to look forward to. What are what are your ultimate plans? Like, I obviously school is, you know, the next season of your life will be a lot of school. But what's some of your ultimate goals? What do you plan to do? Uh, you know, beyond that, I know you want to play music, and I know the general answers. But do you have any specific goals, big goals? Do you as people you want to perform with? Do you want to teach? Do you want to
Mm-hmm.
just tour for? What? Tell me some of your big goals as far as what you're trying to strive to do.
So, of course, like you said, I do want to play after college and everything, but I've thought about this a lot recently. So, the past year at my school, I took multiple classes in art history and advanced classes in history in general. And in the future, I don't know how exactly I would do this, but I do want to be a teacher, but I don't want to teach combo. It's like, I don't know if I would have to get like a degree in politics or something, but what I want to do, not, okay, this is going to be
Okay.
confusing. So, not just in teaching, but I want to use my music to influence politics and like political change, social change, like movements. I think, especially with gender equality, is something I'd like to focus on. But maybe after doing that myself, I'd like to teach art and politics, focusing like a music
Mhm.
history class, but focusing on how art and music has been used to influence the
So
world.
I guess my first thing is, so how but so there's I think after school there's probably how you're going to influence in the more in the performance aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
later on, like you're always going to perform and you're never going to stop performing, but the when you start to do more teaching, the focus of influence for you will be more um, acad- academically. So I guess my first question is, how do you best see yourself achieving that, um, just as a performer?
You know, I haven't thought that far. It's more, this is
Yeah,
just like an idea of something I would maybe like to do in the future. And seeing myself achieve that, I
that's
don't
okay.
know,
And I
Leonard.
don't think that it's, you know what? It's not, you don't have to have an answer to everything. You just have to know that this is what I want to do or achieve. And and it's totally
Mm-hmm.
okay. There's no, in fact, there's probably not one answer to this. And for me, it's more, I'm just more interested, you know, it's like, how is Brenda going to achieve that? And you're probably going to discover that as you go. You're probably probably already female jazz artists are up there that you look up to, maybe that you've talked to, and maybe at the get go is just how are they doing it? Because there are some already
Mm-hmm.
that are pushing forward and doing some of the things you want to do. So when you have your opportunity, you know, you might take what they have done, but might have a new creative way to even, you
Mm-hmm.
know, get it out there even more, right?
Yeah, I think for something that I would like to do in the future that I've thought about is I wouldn't just want to use music. I'd like to work with a different
Yeah,
art form and create something together. I'm not really sure what, but that's something that
That's
I've thought
cool.
about.
I like the social justice aspect of it. I like using the creative elements of all of it. I'm excited to see where you take it and how you get there. That's phenomenal.
Me
I
too.
mean, luckily, I think we can all agree that music is this connective tissue that kind of binds us together, whether or not we know each other or not. And so, I mean, that's a force to be reckoned with. And then you can, you know, however you parlay that off to meet your goals, that's exciting. Really cool.
hmm yeah. Um, do you have anything you want to interject?
You know what? I would love to hear more about what's going to be happening this Saturday. Talking to,
Yes.
like exploring some of the music you're going to share with the audiences. I would like to, you know, obviously you got some, you know, I already gushed too much about Julian Cantelm and how I'm just in awe of him. So I'm that's amazing. Like, how did you put together your band? Oh, and hold on a second. I see somebody just popped a question. We got one audience member coming in. Will Brenda be singing at her concert? She just asked from Lauren Avazedo Grondona. She asked if you're going to be singing.
Oh, hi, Lauren.
I think,
No,
sorry,
I will not, but
another
another
time,
time.
Lauren. So keep track of where Brenda's going to be playing.
Yeah.
It's going to happen someday out there in one of her concerts, but not at
hmm
Saturday's museum concert. So let me ask my question again. What was your basis for putting together your band? It doesn't have to be, you know, obviously I know Julian and I'm just like gushing again. Oh, Julian's so awesome. But your criteria for putting together your band. What were you looking for this trio? And then what music are you going to be sharing and why are you sharing the music that you've chosen?
Yeah, so to put together my trio, John Murray, the bassist, he's one of my really close friends. We've played together for probably 5 or 6 years. Yeah, since I did that tribute concert that I talked about earlier, I did that with him. And Julian, I've played with him a couple of times, and I, so, okay, the originals that I write are more on the modern side, and Julian really excels at playing, I think, the kind of style that I
Hmm.
would like to hear in the songs that I play. It's hard to bring a tune that I write somewhere and hear it played exactly the way that I heard
Hmm.
it in my head when I was writing it, but he does that really well. And then as for the music that we'll be playing, I focused a lot on piano trio stuff that I really love. So I'm playing a lot of Brad Meldau, not his compositions, but tunes that are on his albums. And then I have a little bit of Bill Evans.
Right on.
I got
You
that
got
from
that
you,
from
Leonard.
got that from me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to do Alice in
Yeah.
Wonderland.
Awesome.
And then I have some Oscar Peterson and a few Cedar Walton originals, and then along with some of my own
And
originals.
a lot of these are your own arrangements too. I mean, obviously your music, but some of
Sort of.
the standard pieces too. Are they draw back with your skills as an arranger too, right?
Yeah, a few of them are arranged.
Awesome. So coming in as a first time listener, let's say we've got a couple audience members that this music is brand new to them. You know, as hard as it may seem, as hard as we may fathom not having audience members not familiar with our music we're performing, what would you recommend that they listen for when they're listening to your trio? What should they be keeping an ear out for?
I think the interaction between all of us. I think a lot in music, and especially in jazz, is the conversation that you're having musically between each other. So I think listening to that call and response
Awesome.
and everything.
Now, with your relationship to the artists that you've got on stage with you, obviously, with your bassist, you've already said that you kind of already have like 5 years of like having these conversations back and forth. Is there a difference between that with Julian that you've had maybe not as many experiences with? Do you see those conversations differently, and what's that like?
I would say yes, there is a little bit of a difference, mainly because since John and I have been playing together for such a long time, a lot of the time I can kind of predict what he's going to play, or I can just like, I know what's going to happen a little bit ahead of time, just from like context
Right on.
clues, I guess. And with Julian, it's more of a surprise. That's what I like about playing with him, because I don't know what to expect
Hey,
sometimes.
that's I've played with Julian a lot for many years, and there's still elements of surprise. There's things he does that it's like it's hard to predict what he's going to do, but it keeps it fresh. It's very cool.
That's
And
what's so
I
cool about
think I
him.
mean that also lends itself to your both of your professionalism as artists playing with these because if I was on stage and he did something crazy, I would just be like, what, I would just lose. I would stop playing. What just happened there? What just happened? So, let's see. Another comment here. Bill Evans! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! And 3 exclamation points. Planning on going. Always nice to see you guys from Maurice Almase. So that's great. We're so excited to have everyone there coming to the concert on Saturday. Leonard, any other final questions we had that we wanted to explore with Brenda?
You know, I mean, I pretty much asked her mostly everything. I mean, I mean, I'm sure I can go detail by detail as far as, just to what she's done. I mean, I for me, it's like, you know, she's become somebody who maybe was, we're all students of music, students of jazz for life, but she's I don't think of her so much as like primarily a student anymore. Like she's really more of a music peer, and so it's and she's still a senior in high school, but it's just a different it's just a different she's gaining that respect, amongst her peers, just with her level of play and how centered and connected she is with the music. I mean, is there anything? I guess my question would be, what would be your advice to young musicians who are either younger than you or your age who want to do the same thing? What would you say? Not just obviously practice, but beyond that, what would you say to them, and how to gain that kind of path that you're doing?
I think the most important thing is to just listen. Yeah,
Like listen to
that's.
music, listen to live music.
I think Live music, especially, because that's
Yeah.
a different experience, seeing people perform and everything. But listening to music, and you don't have to restrict yourself to only listening to the music that
Yeah.
you want to play. Listening to all kinds of music can give you different ideas and thoughts on how to change things about your playing. You don't have to
Yeah.
change things about your
And
playing. Be who you
these
are.
those words are advice from people like Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, Bobby McFerrin, some of the masters, giants. They have said and quoted similar things about listening to all types of music, and appreciating all types of music, because it opens your ears, it opens your mind. Listen to, folk music all around the world, different, cultures, all different things. See what's happening in the current pop scene. Listen to classics. Yeah, it does. It does inform you differently, and of course, we have our phones where we can like easily within 2 seconds, we can make a playlist
Mm-hmm.
of anything we want to hear. So it's easy. But yes, and hearing live music, I agree. It's, and you can be young and broke and still get to live music. There's lots of free things. Doesn't, you don't have to pay $20, $30, $40, all the time to hear live music. I would say I would agree with you, because listening to music will inform what we do and our choices as a musician of what we want to do, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
writing or playing, or even just I want to go to school for music or whatever. So I like that mature advice from you. So
Thank you.
Actually, Leonard, when before you as you were prefacing that question too, it kind of got me thinking too. I mean, Brenda, you're a young professional. You started early into a genre that most would consider a mature genre. The artists who are establishing themselves are already, you know, much older than a lot of the students are starting at where you guys are starting with the Young Lions. Have you noticed any challenges in negotiating that type of gosh, what's the right word for that, kind of the establishments that were already in place, like jazz is maybe incorrectly considered a genre for older professionals rather than young professionals. Have you noticed any disparity between that? Have you noticed any challenges navigating that in your career, or is it something that you kind of feel like you've broken through and are kind of changing the preconceptions that we have already?
Well, I think it definitely used to be like that. Now, there's a lot more young jazz musicians than you would think. Not just in the US, but
And
everywhere.
that may be my own limited perceptions of, and again, it goes back to what Leonard was just saying too, challenging myself to listen more to new music, listen more to new artists, uh, listen to more, just broadening my own horizons. I can see that personally.
what I want to say, add to that, because it's, obviously part of it, the young players,
Hmm.
but also young listeners. I think I think a big part of that, and at least in our city, is you have to go back to Gilbert. Gilbert's been hosting jams for many years. I mean, you can go back, all the way to the '90s. I mean, he used to do it was you know Onyx Room and Cafe Sevilla and all these places, for years, and so I think this is the since he's been in Panama, which has been I think a handful of years, it's the first place that has been all ages, because before Panama it was 7 grand. A majority of the places have been 21 and up.
Yeah.
So what that has
Mm-hmm.
created is with the young lions, families go, and families, the parents are going, and the friends of these kids are coming. So there's a whole group of listeners that have been created. I think that has been one of the most brilliant things that has happened in this town is when his move from 7 Grand to Panama has created that. I think it, in any town, if there's ways for people to, and it might be happening in certain places and not as many in certain cities, but creating that environment, you have young listeners, people, it's like, okay, this is cool. They're just, I've been to Panama and I've watched young people be in awe of just what's happening. Wow. They're just like, they just are in awe of the music that's happening. And then you've got young musicians who are like, I want to play this music. How do I, do this? So I think we've been in a good place in this town where, that environment has been created, and we need a lot more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both helped open my eyes and change my perspective a little bit there, because I didn't realize that there was more up and coming young professionals out there than what I might have already, what I might have had in my head, what I was already kind of like that preconception in my head. So that helped me out. And then Leonard, realizing that creating these spaces where everyone can have access to it regardless of where you are, that makes a lot of sense. And so that's wonderful. Great perspectives. Well, I tell you what, we're at the top of the hour already. I can't believe it's been an hour since we got started here. Brenda, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us for this conversation and being such a wonderful, wonderful guest for us. Leonard, thank you for your time and being a wonderful, wonderful guest interviewer. I couldn't have done it without you. And I've learned so much today, and we're so excited for Saturday's concert. I want to bring our audience and take a look to make sure that they're aware of what's going on this weekend. We do have Brenda Greggio performing as part of the San Diego Sound Project, which is generously supported by the Conrad Prebys Foundation and the Carlsbad Cultural Arts Office. Tongue twisters. Let's see. Saturday, March 19th, this Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Museum of Making Music. You can get tickets on our website, museumofmakingmusic.org. And if you cannot attend in person, just as Leonard was saying, the importance of having access to these concerts, we are making this available free as a free live stream. So you can RSVP for that. We'll send you the link. But like Brenda was saying, it's super important to get to live music and come see live music shows, and we're offering in-person tickets. Come to the museum, come experience a wonderful, wonderful jazz trio with an amazing up-and-coming artist, Brenda Greggio. And other than that, I love this conversation today. I love getting to meet our artists, and I love learning about their career paths and their trajectory, and just getting a glimpse behind the scene, behind the curtain, to see what to expect on this weekend. I hope you all had a great time. Thank you, everyone out there, for joining us online. Thank you for the wonderful questions, Gary, and all the wonderful comments that we've experienced today. Looking forward to seeing you at the Museum of Making Music for this concert and our future events. Until then, everyone, take care and have a wonderful day.